thrown away like trash. The rain had not stopped for 3 days on the dirty streets of Velkar 7, a mining planet far from Earth. In the dark alley behind a fuel station, something small and weak lay curled against the cold metal wall. It was an alien woman. Her skin was rough like old bark with patches missing. Her bones showed through her thin body. Her face was covered in bruises, and her eyes were shut. She looked like a broken doll, left behind and forgotten. Her name was Lyra. Once she was full of hope, but her own people had called her useless and ugly. In her world, beauty was everything. The ones who didn't look perfect were left behind, thrown out like trash. Lyra was one of them. She had begged for food, cried for help, but no one cared. Everyone turned their faces away. They called her cursed. One merchant had kicked her, another had spit on her. Now she was too weak to move. Her breath came slow. She believed this was the end. Then, footsteps. Heavy boots splashed through puddles and stopped nearby. A man's voice muttered, "What the hell is that?" He knelt down and looked closely. He was human, tall, strong, with tired eyes and a short beard. His name was Ben. He had come to Velkar 7 to fix a broken ship engine, but now he had found something else, something alive. He touched her hand, cold, still, but then her fingers twitched. "She's alive," he whispered in shock. He looked around. No one was watching. No one cared. Ben didn't think much. His instincts told him to act. He removed his long coat and wrapped it around her. Then slowly he lifted her in his arms. She was light, too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. People stared as Ben walked through the streets with Lyra in his arms. Some laughed. Some called him stupid. A vendor shouted, "Throw that thing away, she's not worth saving." Ben didn't stop. He took her to his small ship, placed her on a bed, and gave her water. She didn't drink. He checked her vitals, weak heartbeat. He warmed a packet of food and gently pressed a spoon to her lips. At first, nothing, but then she opened her mouth just a little. Hours passed. He stayed close, changing her bandages, cleaning her wounds. He didn't know who she was or what had happened. He only knew she needed help. By the next morning, her eyes slowly opened, pale purple like fading light. She blinked, confused and afraid. She looked around, then at the strange man beside her. He smiled kindly. "You're safe now," he said softly. Her lips moved, dry and cracked. She tried to speak. Only one word came out. "Why?" Ben was quiet for a moment. That one word hit his heart harder than anything else. "Because," he said gently, "you deserve to live." Lyra stared at him. No one had ever said that to her. Not her parents, not her leaders, not even herself. She had always been told she was nothing. Ben brought warm soup and helped her sit up slowly. Her hands shook. She sipped the soup like it was gold. Then she said something else, weak but clear. "Name." "Lyra." Ben smiled. "Nice to meet you, Lyra. I'm Ben." She looked down, ashamed. Ugly." Ben frowned. "No, you're not ugly. You're hurt. That's different." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She turned her face away and cried silently. She didn't want to be seen. But Ben didn't leave. He just sat beside her and waited. Later that night, as she slept under warm blankets for the first time in years, Ben looked at her and whispered, "I don't know what happened to you, but you're not trash. You're someone." Outside, the rain finally stopped. Inside, something began to heal. Lyra didn't know it yet, but her life had just changed forever. The galaxy had left her to die. But one human had done something no one expected. He had given her a chance, a home, a reason to live, a place with warmth. Lyra woke up to something strange, silence. No shouting, no kicks, no pain. only a soft hum and a warm blanket over her. She blinked at the clean ceiling above her, then turned her head slowly. The room was small, made of metal, but cozy. A small table, a shelf with books, and the smell of food in the air. She wasn't in the alley anymore, she was somewhere safe. Ben stepped in quietly, carrying a bowl of warm broth. "Good morning," he said with a soft smile. "You're awake, that's a good sign." Lyra pushed herself up slowly. Her arms were still weak. She looked down at her hands. Someone had cleaned them, bandaged them. It felt unreal. He sat beside her and handed her the bowl. She stared at it, unsure. "It's just soup, try it." She lifted the spoon with shaking hands. One sip, and her eyes widened. She hadn't tasted real food in so long. Most days she ate scraps, sometimes even rotten waste just to stay alive. "Why, this?" she asked in a quiet voice. Ben looked at her, puzzled. "Why what?" "Why help me?" He took a breath, thinking carefully. "Because someone should have. Because leaving you there felt wrong." Lyra looked down again. "They said I am waste. They said I look wrong." Ben tilted his head. "They were wrong. You don't look wrong. You look like someone who's been through too much." A strange feeling filled her chest. Not pain, not fear. It was something she hadn't felt in years. Comfort. That day, Ben gave her new clothes, soft, clean, and warm. She hesitated, holding them in her hands. The colors were light, nothing like the dark rags she was used to. She dressed slowly, and when she looked at her reflection in a metal panel, she almost didn't recognize herself. Later, Ben showed her around the ship. It wasn't big, but it had everything. A small kitchen, 2 sleeping cabins, and a control deck. He explained how things worked. Lyra followed him silently, trying to understand. Her old life had been filled with orders, punishment, and rejection. This felt like a dream. That night she sat at the table, slowly sipping more soup while Ben worked on some tools nearby. "You can rest here as long as you want," he said, not looking up. "No one will bother you." Lyra stared at him. "I don't understand you." Ben chuckled softly. "That makes 2 of us." Lyra lowered her spoon. "Why aren't you afraid of me?" He finally looked at her, serious now. "Should I be?" She shook her head. "I don't know. Everyone else is. Or disgusted." Ben leaned back. "I've seen war. I've seen monsters. You're not one of them. You're just hurt." Silence filled the room again, but this time it was peaceful. That night, Lyra lay in bed staring at the ceiling. She didn't cry. She didn't tremble. For the first time in years, she felt a strange thing growing inside her. Hope. Days passed. Lyra gained strength. She started walking more, eating better. She learned new words from Ben, who taught her slowly and kindly. Sometimes she asked questions. Other times she just listened to his stories about Earth, the oceans, the music, and the sunsets. One day she stood outside the ship on a quiet hill. Wind touched her face. The sun warmed her strange, patchy skin. She closed her eyes and whispered, "So warm." Ben stood beside her, arms crossed. "Feels good, doesn't it?" She nodded. Then softly she asked, "Do I really belong here?" He looked at her. "You belong wherever you feel safe." She turned to him and said, something he wasn't expecting, "Thank you, Ben, for not throwing me away." He smiled. "Lyra, you're not something to throw away, you're someone worth knowing." For a long time, she just stood there, and for the first time in her life, she believed it. But peace never lasts long, not in this galaxy. Someone was watching, and soon the quiet life they had started would face a storm neither of them saw coming. Learning to be alive. The first time Lyra laughed, it shocked even her. It was a quiet morning. She was helping Ben organize some old metal parts in the storage room of his ship. A bolt rolled off the table and hit Ben's foot. He yelped and hopped, on one leg, waving his arms like a broken machine. Lyra couldn't help it. A small sound escaped her lips, soft, strange, a giggle. Ben froze and turned to her. Was that a laugh? Lyra covered her mouth, confused by the warmth in her chest. I don't know. He grinned. That was definitely a laugh. For someone who had spent most of her life in silence, used to pain, insults, and cold nights, that laugh meant something big. It was her first real step toward life. In the days that followed, Lyra started changing. Slowly, gently, like a plant that had been stepped on for years but now felt the sun again. She spoke more. She helped in small tasks. She even asked questions. One evening, she pointed at a picture on the wall. It showed a human woman with warm eyes, holding a child. Who is she? Ben looked at it. My sister. She passed away a few years ago. She always helped those who were alone. Lyra stared at the image. Like you helped me. Ben gave a sad smile. She would have liked you. That moment stayed in Lyra's heart. Later that week, Ben took her to a nearby Earth colony for fresh supplies. It was the first time Lyra had been around people in a long time. She kept her hood up, eyes low. She didn't want anyone to see her face. A little girl in the market bumped into her. Lyra froze, expecting a scream or insult, but the girl looked up and said, "Cool skin." Then she ran off laughing. Lyra just stood there. No fear, no hate, just a compliment. Ben watched her closely. You okay? She nodded, still unsure how to feel. Back at the ship, Lyra sat alone and touched her cheek. She had always hated her reflection. But maybe, just maybe, not everyone saw her the way her people did. That night, Lyra spoke something she'd never said aloud. I used to dream of being beautiful. Ben looked at her. You are. She blinked at him. You don't mean that? I do, he said. Beauty isn't about perfect skin or shiny eyes, it's about heart. And yours? It's stronger than most. She turned away, trying to hide her face. If I ever went back, they'd laugh at me. Then, don't go back, Ben said. I do, he said. Beauty isn't about perfect skin or shiny eyes, it's about heart. And yours? It's stronger than most. She turned away, trying to hide her face. If I ever went back, they'd laugh at me. Then don't. Go back, Ben said. Make a new life. You don't need them anymore. Lyra didn't answer, but in her heart something clicked. She began reading Ben's old books. She tried painting once with shaky hands. Her drawings were simple: sunsets, strange plants, a smiling figure with messy hair that looked a lot like Ben. She began writing her name again and again, Lyra. It felt good to own it. Then one evening, as stars blinked above their small camp outside the ship, Lyra sat beside a small fire. Ben handed her a piece of fruit. She bit into it, made a face, then laughed again. Sour. He chuckled. Told you. She looked up at the sky. Ben, what if others like me are still out there? His face grew serious. Then maybe we should find them. She looked at him, surprised. He shrugged. No one should be alone. You weren't the only one they threw away. Lyra nodded slowly. Then let's find them. When I'm ready. You tell me when, Ben said. That night, Lyra didn't cry herself to sleep. She didn't dream of being someone else. She dreamed of becoming stronger, of finding others, of giving back the kindness she had been given. She was learning how to live, but peace was never simple. In the shadows beyond the stars, someone had taken notice of the strange human ship, and the alien woman who was supposed to be dead. The galaxy still hates, The trouble began with a knock. Ben opened the hatch expecting a delivery, maybe a traitor. But instead, two uniformed figures stood outside, galactic patrol officers. Their silver badges glowed faintly in the sun. Their faces were cold and unreadable. "We received a report," one of them said. "You're harboring an unregistered life form. Species Threxan female, status discarded by her own people." Ben didn't flinch. "Her name is Lyra, and she's not a thing to be registered like cargo." The second officer stepped forward. "Sir, she is not recognized as a legal citizen in any known system. Under interspecies agreement laws, that makes her a danger." "She's not a danger," Ben said sharply. "She's just someone who was thrown away." Inside the ship, Lyra listened from behind the wall. Her hands trembled. The past had found her. No matter how far she'd run, no matter how kind the human was, her people's judgment had followed her like a shadow. The officers gave Ben a warning. "She has 72 hours to leave this sector. If she remains, we will take action." When they left, Lyra came out slowly. Her face was pale, her voice shaking. "They will take me. Lock me again. Or worse." Ben stepped close, gently placing his hand on her shoulder. "Not if I can help it." That night, silence filled the ship. Lyra sat by the small window, staring out into space. "Why do they still hate me? I've done nothing." Ben sat beside her. "Because they're afraid. People fear what they don't understand. And your people? They made fear a rule." She looked at him. "I don't want to hide anymore, but I don't want to bring you trouble." Ben shook his head. "Lyra, this ship is your home. I'll protect you, even if the whole galaxy comes knocking." The next day, a small crowd gathered outside the colony market. Whispers filled the air. "That's the one, Ben's alien. I heard she's dangerous. No wonder her people abandoned her." A boy threw a stone. It missed, but Lyra flinched. Ben stepped in front of her. "Enough. You don't even know her." A woman stepped forward. "She's not one of us. We don't want her here." Before Ben could speak, a soft voice rose from the crowd. "Why not?" A young girl, no older than 10, walked out. She looked up at Lyra and smiled. "She helped me when I fell yesterday. She gave me a flower. I like her." The crowd fell quiet. Lyra blinked, stunned. "She's kind," the girl added. "You all talk like she's a monster, but she's nicer than half of you." Ben looked around. No one had a reply. Shame crept into some faces. Later, back on the ship, Lyra sat silently. "That little girl, she stood for me," Ben smiled. "It only takes one voice to change hearts." But peace wouldn't last. That evening, an official notice arrived. A drone dropped it on their deck. It read, "Final warning. Remove the eye. Illegal alien from human space. Failure to comply will result in arrest and ship seizure." Ben stared at it, his jaw tight. Lyra stood behind him. "You should let me go." He turned, furious. "No, that's not an option. They'll hurt you. Then let them try." For a long moment, they just looked at each other, and then Lyra spoke softly, but firmly. "I'm done running. If they want to take me, they'll have to look me in the eyes. I won't hide anymore." Ben nodded slowly. "Then we fight. Together." In the cold, dark galaxy where she had once been called worthless, Lyra was finally finding her worth. Not in her face or her skin, but in the fire she felt rising inside. They thought she was broken. Run or Fight, a human child posted a drawing of Lyra with hearts around her and a caption, "I want to be her friend." News channels picked up the story. Some called it the face of change. Others mocked her, but no one could ignore her anymore. Back on the ship, Ben handed her a small screen. "The High Court wants a hearing," he said. "They're considering your case under the Earth Galactic Rights Act. You'll speak in front of a panel." Lyra felt her knees weaken. "I can't. You already did." Ben interrupted softly. "They heard you. Now go finish what you started." The day of the hearing came fast. Ben dressed in formal black. Lyra wore a simple gray robe, her head high. Her scars were visible. She didn't hide them. She wanted them seen. The courtroom was filled with aliens, humans, cameras, drones. The judges looked down from a tall bench, one human, one Threxan, one of another race she didn't know. They asked questions, harsh ones. Did you break immigration law? Are you truly of sound mind? Why didn't your own kind help you? Lyra answered everyone, calm, brave, honest. I was not meant to survive, she said. But I did, and that proves I have worth. The room was silent, a pause. Then the chief judge spoke. Final judgment will be delivered in 48 Earth hours. As they left, reporters shouted her name. She didn't run, she didn't cover her face. Ben whispered, "You did it." Lyra looked up at the sky. I did more than that, she said. I spoke, and this time they heard me. But deep inside, both of them knew. Judgment Day would either give her freedom or take everything away. The world reacts, then a breath. Shaky, disbelieving. Lyra sat down slowly as if her legs had stopped working. I'm not being taken? Ben knelt beside her. No, you're staying. She whispered, I'm free? The word tasted strange, heavy, beautiful. But the message wasn't finished. Be advised, the Threxan government has disavowed her citizenship and labeled her a traitor. She has no planetary rights on her homeworld. She is now stateless. Ben looked at her, waiting for sadness, but Lyra smiled. I never had a home there anyway. In the days that followed, things changed fast. Lyra's story was invited onto major news streams. She turned down most, but recorded one final message. I don't want fame. I want fairness. Not just for me, but for anyone who has ever been thrown away. Her message was translated into over 60 languages, used in schools, quoted in protests, celebrated in quiet rooms where forgotten people lived. Still, not all was safe. Ben had to upgrade security. Not everyone forgave. Not everyone changed. But Lyra no longer lived in fear. She began helping others. Aliens like her who had nowhere to go. She taught them words, gave them blankets. Sometimes just sat with them in silence. And one night, as she looked out at the stars from the ship's deck, Ben brought her a cup of tea. You're different now, he said. She nodded. So are you, he smiled. What now? Lyra looked up. Now we live. For real this time. But deep in the galaxy, the Threxan elite whispered behind sealed doors. A symbol had risen, and symbols could spark revolutions. Their eyes stayed on her, because she was no longer just a mistake. She was a threat to the lie they had built their world upon. From useless to loved a year had passed. The ship that once carried a dying woman from the gutters of Velkar 7 now stood proudly on Earth soil, repurposed into something new, a shelter, a center, a beginning. Lyra stood in the garden behind the building, planting her first real tree. Her strange, rough hands gently touched the roots, steady and sure. Beside her, two small alien children giggled, playing with the soil. One of them looked just like her, same skin, same markings, same eyes full of questions. But this time no one called them ugly. The center was called Haven Light, and it welcomed anyone discarded by their species. Runaways, the exiled, the flawed. Lyra didn't just live here, she led it. Inside, the halls were lined with soft lights and hand-drawn art. Some of it was messy, colorful, wild, but each piece told a story. A story that began the day a human decided not to walk away. Ben still worked by her side, fixing broken heating systems, guiding new arrivals, and sometimes just sitting outside with her in the evenings, watching the sky change colors. One afternoon, Lyra spoke to a group of students visiting from a nearby academy. They expected someone soft-spoken, shy. What they saw was a woman who stood tall, scars visible, voice calm but powerful. I was told I had no place in the galaxy, she told them. That my body was wrong, my face was wrong, my spirit was weak. But someone believed in me before I believed in myself, and now I believe in others who were thrown away. A young human girl raised her hand. Were you ever scared? Lyra paused, then smiled gently. All the time. But kindness gave me courage, and courage taught me to fight without fists. After the students left, Ben handed her a wrapped package. Anniversary gift, he said. She opened it slowly. Inside was a photo, an old one. A screenshot from the day he had first found her. Wet, broken, nearly lifeless. Next to it, a new photo. Her today, standing strong in the garden surrounded by children. Lyra held the frame in silence. That's not who I was, she whispered. That was who I was told to be. Ben nodded. And this is who you chose to become. Later that evening, as the stars bloomed across the sky, Lyra stood alone on the balcony, looking at the world she once thought would never welcome her. She remembered the alley, the rain, the pain, the voices that called her trash, and she remembered Ben's arms, his voice, his choice to see her differently. I was called useless, she said to the night. But now, I create value. I give hope. I love, and I am loved. Far beyond Earth, on her old homeworld, some still spat her name like poison, but she no longer cared. Their world was shrinking, hers was growing. The door behind her opened. A small voice said, Lyra, can you tell us a bedtime story? She turned with a smile. Of course. As the children curled up in soft blankets, Lyra sat beside them and began her tale, not of kings or warriors, but of a woman once left to die, and the human who changed everything. And in that quiet moment, with sleepy heads resting near her, Lyra finally understood. She was not a mistake. She was the beginning of something new, something beautiful.